Good afternoon. My name is Zsuzsanna Benyó, and the title of my PhD thesis is Human Adaptation to Spaceflight. But why exactly this topic? Because the number of space travelers will increase to more than 40,000 in a couple of years by the year 2030, thanks to modern reusable rocket technology. Our team has multidisciplinary experience and background. I'm a dietitian, but I also studied space healthcare. And I'm glad that my supervisors are in charge of the Hungarian human spaceflight program. Our joint vision is to achieve healthy longevity, not only here on Earth, but also in space. Therefore, our mission is to create the Translational Research Institute for Space Healthcare. So hereby, I would like to grab the opportunity and to encourage all of you to consider space-related topics going forward as your research topic. We have two specific goals. The first one is a meta-analysis and systematic review about assessing the effect of bisphosphonates in preventing spaceflight-induced bone, renal, and urinary disorders. This topic is of utmost importance because if you, as a researcher, will spend 1 month in space, then you can lose at least 1% of your bone mass during that short period. Moreover, it's interrelated to urinary and renal disorders because of the calcium homeostasis. So with this research, we aim to investigate whether bisphosphonates can prevent renal stones, urethritis, or bone loss in astronauts. Our clinical question is, can bisphosphonates prevent altered gravity-induced bone loss, urinary or renal disorders? We used a PICO framework where the population had two types, either humans in space or humans in altered gravity models, just like Amir explained this to you, but they stayed longer for months in this model. And the intervention in all of the cases was taking bisphosphonates, and we compared with a group who didn't receive any bisphosphonate treatment. And we included studies where we had the relevant outcome parameters related to bone loss, urinary, and renal disorders. Because we hypothesized that bisphosphonates are effective countermeasures, just like here on Earth, but also in space, related to minimizing bone loss, urinary, and renal disorders induced by spaceflight or microgravity models. These are the main outcomes we identified. We have 15 biomarkers, and in order to see the process, how we work with them, you can see here that we used 5 major databases, but we checked even the information provided by the space agencies. And the result of this, we identified almost 17,000 articles relevant. And based on the title abstract selection and full text selection, there were 16 eligible articles. Before we jump into the outcome parameters, this is the main rationale that we took into account. So there are biomarkers which are related to bone resorption, and there are main biomarkers which are rather related to bone formation. You can see here also the abbreviations and how they move if someone receives bisphosphonate as a treatment, or if bisphosphonate is coupled with exercise, because also in our studies, there are studies where bisphosphonate was coupled with a special exercise program. And the other definition, or the way how we characterize the grouped our biomarkers is available also here. So there were 5 main categories: bone density indicators, there were hormones, collagens, enzymes, and vitamins and minerals. Let me show you first one of the key biomarkers related to bone health, and this is the bone mineral density. Here you can see the changes in percentage. In the first column, you can see the result of the group who took bisphosphonate. As you can see, the bone mineral density increased or reduced less than in the group, which was the control group. So based on both graphs, both related to femoral neck and lumbar, you can see that bisphosphonates were effective and alleviated bone loss in space and bed rest studies. And they were significant not only clinically, but also statistically. In terms of osteocalcin protein hormone, you can see that in case of taking anti-resorptive treatment, we expected a negative tendency, I mean that it's decreasing. And again, also related to osteocalcin, we can see that astronauts or humans who were in bed rest benefited from receiving bisphosphonates because osteocalcin is reduced in this case. So it's again emphasized or underlined our hypothesis. In terms of NTX and CTS, bone resorptive markers, again, our hypothesis has been confirmed and validated because both in bed rest studies and space studies, you can clearly see that it has decreased, and this underlines our hypothesis about the effectiveness of bisphosphonates in altered gravity environments, but even in space. And related to a key hormone related to our bone health, it's especially interesting that there were no main changes. Still, clinically, the result is significant, though statistically it's not, and there is an outlier as well here. In terms of enzymes, here we can see that it reached the mean difference minus 8.31. This is a clinically significant result, though statistically it's not because the confidence interval included 0. However, in the second graph about bone-specific alkaline phosphatides, it's both clinically and statistically significant result, again benefiting space travelers if they take bisphosphonate. There are strengths and limitations related to our meta-analysis. It's definitely a strength that we managed to identify 15 key outcome parameters, so we have even more, way more for us plots than I presented here for you today. And there were interventions approved by the space agencies, and we had RCTs as well. Obviously, there are limitations, for example, in terms of the number of studies, the number of subjects, and whether they took supplementation or not. The conclusion is that bisphosphonates effectively alleviate bone mass density loss during spaceflight or in microgravity research, so therefore we recommend this to include it in the guideline. And the implication for research is that there should be more standardized approach, and also the safety, any side effects of bisphosphonates should be examined. This is where we are with the current project, currently in the manuscript phase, and the second project is investigating how spaceflight or altered gravity levels affect body composition at different time points. You might have seen astronauts who couldn't even stand up after landing. Obviously, it depends how long they stayed in space. With this research, we would like to explore the optimal duration of spaceflight concerning the risk factors associated with muscle atrophy, especially. The question is, how do spaceflight or altered gravity levels affect body composition at different time points? It's a PICO framework with humans either exposed to spaceflight or altered gravity levels, and we will make the comparison with the baseline. This is the preliminary research we had, and this is the brief summary about our projects. Thank you very much for your kind attention. We choose to go to the moon, not because it's easy, but because it's hard. This is one of my favorite quotes, and this is how we are also doing and started conducting research also related to space here in Hungary.
Thank you very much. Any question?
If there is not from the floor, is there any question from the floor? I understand that gravity is examined in a bed rest condition. And we know that there can be very many side effects of bisphosphonates, especially esophagitis can develop. That's why we advise the patient to being in a standing condition after taking the bisphosphonate. So were the side effects of bisphosphonate therapy examined during the examinations, and how was the frequency of gastroenterological side effects?
Yeah, the space agencies were very careful and conducted always researches taking into account side effects, and they reported if there were any. There were only one single case in one of the studies where there was a gastrointestinal case, and then that individual didn't participate the program going forward. So there was one single case. Having said that, we do encourage researchers to conduct further research, focusing even related to necrosis side effects, which might happen even here on Earth related to taking bisphosphonates, before we really vote for a guideline to include bisphosphonates in space.
You mentioned a lot of parameters, biochemical parameters that were followed. I don't remember whether I see the beta cross-labs, which is, as I know as a clinician, the most often used biochemical parameter in the setting of osteoporosis. So did you examine this marker, or do you know?
Since we were focusing on those researches which included everything related to our PICO framework, these are the key these are the parameters which have been studied by the space agency. So this is which we can use for the meta-analysis. But yes, it makes sense, absolutely.